Oh, hi. Someone asked on LinkedIn if I could explain my process for sculpting in Nomad. I thought I'd give it a shot. Um, there's lots of really good sort of beginner tutorials on YouTube for Nomad, but I thought I'd just go through the basics of what I do. Um, Ultimately, it's about recognizing sort of forms and volumes and pushing and pulling on a shape until it does what you want. So you might have noticed from my ArtStation stuff, I do a lot of heads. That's where my interest lies. So usually what I'll do is I'll start with this default sphere, and I'll do like a very quick mark out, because the problem with the default sphere is it's hard to tell where you are in space, and like the classic thing of it's hard to work in a void in a vacuum. I just start with something. So I'll mark out roughly where I want the eyes to go, the nose, the mouth, the chin, and then I might invert the shape and invert my tool so that it's going to pull out rather than push in, and I'll make it like really strong and bigger, and I'll sort of invert out the brow, the cheekbones, and maybe where the jawline is going to be. So now I've got a template, and I can look at this and go, blah, I hate this, but we can fix it. So depending on the day, my mood, I'll use a move tool. So I might just like pushing the side so that it's a bit more squarish. I'm going to pull out the chin, so that's more like what it should be. And it's about just like little shortcuts, really, just sort of recognizing where the shapes go and then pushing it appropriately. So these days I almost don't even think about it. I just sort of do it without much thought. So that was using the move brush just to push and pull things around a bit. Then I'm going to use a bit of the clay brush. I'm just going to sort of build up some volume. I tend to work sort of quickly and loose, so I just bodge in a bit of a volume for the nose, a bit of a volume for sort of that like sort of a ski mask shape around sort of the ooh, don't want to paint around. Why is that painting? Reset that tool, cancel, reset. Yes, there we go. So I'm going to like build up the kind of like the skull ski mask thing. Build up the kind of the muzzle of the mouth, and then the other kind of like big secret, there isn't really a big secret, is just look at it from lots of different angles. So a lot of a mistake beginners often make is they'll just be looking from the front and go, yeah, it looks fine, and never think to look at it from the side. I mean, they might look at it from the side, but you also got to get used to looking at it from the top, and you can see that it looks really weird, and looking from the bottom, and that looks really weird. But if you get a mirror, a webcam, photo reference, whatever it is, you can sort of start to recognize shapes that you should be seeing from different angles. So from the bottom, the jaw is quite sort of sticky outy, so is the chin. Maybe the cheeks don't go out quite so far like that. But the nose would be out a bit more. Then I look from the top, and the brow is quite sort of rounded like that, but maybe it doesn't go quite so wide. Going to look from like a 3/4, sort of maybe build up the head a bit more. The other kind of reference point is skulls, and kind of knowing that the kind of like the egg shape of the top of the skull is one shape, and then the jaw is a second shape. So just to really accentuate that, I might do something like that. You can see already this is starting to come together. Build the nose a bit more. Again, like a lot of different sort of tutorials for ZBrush and this that around. A lot of them say never use a smooth brush. I don't believe that. Just smooth as much as you want. I tend to go really sort of aggressive with my smooth brush, and just sort of like I'm sort of, if I was using clay, just grabbing like a big wet sponge and just like sort of smoothing it all down so I can sort of see it again and clean. That's kind of like that. At this point, I might use the crease brush again to crease in some detail. So I'm going to crease in the mouth. I've got a few tricks for that. So I might do a shape like that. So I'll use the crease brush going in. I've done that completely wrong. Crease brush going in for the line between the lips like that. Then I'll invert it so it's going to pull out, and do one across the top of the lips and one for the bottom of the lip. You need something that's kind of sort of a thing. It's looking like the guy played Robocop a bit now for some reason. It's pretty lips. Back into negative and sort of carve out a line to define the nose. Back into move. If you double tap on any place, it'll set the pivot to there, which is quite handy. And I'll try and sort of tidy that up a bit like that. I might now notice that these cheekbones are a little bit too much, and this isn't going back far enough, so I'm going to push that back. So again, just looking at it from all different angles, just keep turning it, nose should be wide across there. Might carve out some nostrils, so it's in subtract mode, and carve. Another little trick that I do to try and get sort of a slightly nicer looking nose is I'll use crease in center mode, and I'll run sort of a single line going from sort of the around there, and then I'll go sort of like wiggle it back and then forward like that, and we'll do that a few times to sort of define where the nostrils sit, like that. So now I've got a target where I can sort of pull that, tuck that back in, tuck that forward, push in a bit more. But you see already that's kind of, you know, more or less starting to be a head. And then you just got to learn other little tricks. Another trick I learned is you often want to sort of separate the chin a bit more than you would expect. So I'm going to build up the chin a bit more. Whoops, in positive mode. I'm going to build it up. Oh, that was to spin the light. Don't do that. So I'm going to do that to there. Build up a bit more of the cheek, sort of flesh through there. Oops, don't want to subtract it. So add. This sort of scribble technique I got from, I think, Flip Normals was really useful as a way to just kind of like build up volume in a controllable sense. So I'm going to build that up a bit more. Might build up the brow a bit more. Across there. Might try and indicate the eyes a bit now. So I'm going to crease in, you know, the lids, and then go to invert and crease in. Whoops, kind of like a outward facing crease. Obviously from the side it looks terrible. So in fact what I might do before doing the creases, I might sort of build up some of this volume a bit more, so it looks more like an outy eyeball, like that. So that's kind of there. Use the move brush to make it look less rubbish. So more like that maybe. Get that in there a bit more. Yeah, smooth it all back. And now I can crease in eyelid ridge. And it's kind of a face coming out there. That lower lip is too big. That chin is too sharp. So this is almost like the kind of inner monologue I've got with myself. I'm just sort of like looking and identifying, and if there's like sort of fixes I can do, looking at the shapes in relation to other shapes. That's what I'm sort of trying to fix. So those relative to the whole head, maybe the eyes feel too high. I should bring that down lower, I think, and a bit too small. The head feels too high and too square, so I'm going to round off like that. Look from the side, that's a bit too bulbous, so I'm going to do more like that. The nose is coming back too much, square that off. The lower lip doesn't feel sort of puffy enough, so I might go like that. Might even use the inflate brush to just puff it out on its normals a bit. Inflate is down in there. Inflate. Like that. The top lip also needs to be inflated a bit. It's looking a bit flat. Come on. Yeah, like that. It's feeling a bit more interesting. The eye's too wide now, so I'm going to pull that back in, and looking from the side, because if that's not very good. So a bit puffy like that. And this is kind of it. I mean, the last thing that I might develop here would be, say, maybe the ears. So I'm just noticing that the eyes don't feel very round. So I'm just going to try and round that off a bit. But you can see just, you know, when you look from one direction, you can't see certain areas, but when you look from some other angle, suddenly errors become really, really apparent. So you just want to keep turning the model all the time. Whoa, smooth it back down a bit. That brow feels stupid. Bring it down a bit more. Oops, move. That brow ridge there is dumb. So sometimes just turning it by little bits, so you kind of go, yeah, that looks good. Well, that actually looks a bit much. There, that's feeling a bit better. That's feeling not too bad. So that's kind of been corrected. Yeah, ears. I could either sculpt it out of the surface here, or I could make a new shape. Again, depending on my mood, time of day, I'll do different things. There's not much. Let's try to do a separate ear, because you can sort of like blend them in pretty easily without too much effort. So I'm going to go make a cylinder. I'm going to make it a squat cylinder like that, and then I'm going to use the gizmo to translate it around to where it's meant to be, get it roughly to the right size, tilt it out, and then I can mirror it by going gizmo. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. Gizmo mirror. There we are. And now, you know, they give quite a lot of character to ears. So it's quite handy to be able to sort of like do it this way and go bigger, smaller, more squat, higher, lower. Should be roughly in line with the nose. So it's way too high. So maybe more like that. Tilt it back a bit, maybe a bit thinner like that. That's feeling a bit eerie. Maybe more like that. Yep. Then you can validate it, and then you can sculpt on it. So I'm going to give it a smooth to start with, and then do some just quick shaping. So pull up the outside, go to invert mode, do the inside a bit. You know, depending if I'm wanting to feel sort of like, you know, photoreal or cartoony, will sort of determine how much detail I try and add. I did sort of a few studies a couple of months ago, just like in a day, I'd sculpted like 20 or 30 ears, and that just sort of gave me some shortcuts to go, okay, now I can recognize certain patterns. I think I've forgotten most of those lessons, but let's see how I do. So that, and then I'm going to sort of crease around the outside like that. And I'm going to do another crease. I'm going to set my pivot here. I'm going to do like an inverse crease, so push it in to start like a, so I can fold that bit over a touch like that. And then I'm going to define where this all sort of goes in, where the hearing happens, I guess. It's kind of like that, I guess. I'm going to define the outer ridge on that, which is sort of that sort of shape. And then there's like another like sort of this kind of funny Y curves that kind of happen across there. This is very low poly, so you can see that's becoming a bit of a mess. But if I subdivide that, and then I can smooth it back, kind of starts to work. Again, I'd sort of refine the smooth that I'm doing, just trying to work quickly so it's not too boring to watch. That will go out like that. See how that all feels. So yeah, and then that's starting to feel like it's got a bit of character. I might subdivide him now. Whoa, that's what I wanted. I wanted to go subdivide, there we are. And I can now, so now that it's been subdivided, I can smooth a bit. I can try and refine this lip shape because that's looking a bit janky. The lower lip is too big and the upper lip is too small. So I'm going to push that up and then push the whole thing down and then try and compensate. Look at it from a few different angles. That angle looks weird there. Try and correct. So I'm looking for silhouettes and things. Try and crease up the line between the lips a bit more. Like that. I might do a bit of a crease line on the cheek across here. And then smooth it back. I might try and refine it just a bit more. Another funny thing I noticed with the lower lip is often it'll start sort of like quite creasy here and then it'll fade out quite quickly. So it'll be sharp and then it'll fade away. So I can even like sort of start with that and then blur it back. Like that. And I should stop talking now because it's getting boring. But yeah, in terms of how I start, that's how I start. What else? I mean, the other thing is just having kind of reference, I guess. So, you know, if I'm sculpting, you can have, you know, reference images of all kinds of different things. So, you know, I'll find a picture I like and I'll have that up behind it. A cool trick you can do with Nomad is you can move the reference point. So I might move this to be more sort of in the center, like that. Confirm it. Then I'll line up my artwork to it. Then I will set Nomad to put the reference image on top. And then, because I've got a keyboard attached to my iPad, you can see I'm running one of these guys. I've got R set as a hotkey to toggle the reference on and off. So it's really useful to be able to just do this back and forth. Sorry for the flashy lights, but I can go back forth and go, actually, the chin should be down there. And then that should be up there, and that should be there, and the eye is too low, and the nose is too low. So I'm just like sort of doing this to kind of get a sense of, you know, what's working, what's not. Just always have to be mindful though to not kind of completely rely on matching the photo reference exactly, because, you know, you might get it dead on with this. The other handy thing you can do is when you make a camera, so you go add view. Now that should have locked, sorry, I did that wrong. Delete the camera. Make sure that the reference image is turned on as you want it. And then when you go add view, this has made a camera. So now if I go out to some other view, but I want to go back to it. If I hit C, which is, I've made another keyboard shortcut to say go to the previously stored camera, it'll snap me back to there, which is really handy. So I can sort of be bouncing back and forth between them. Back to here again, make sure I choose the sphere, move the G-cut a bit more, like that. So yeah, already even just from that little adjustment from some great reference from Rockwell, or from kind of anyone really, this has more character than it did before, which is kind of cool. The other really handy thing with Nomad that I don't do enough is use layers. So you can go to add layer, and now it's like in Photoshop layers. You can be sculpting on top of this. So if I decide I want to make a like sort of an angry brow, I can push that down, and I can put that behind a slider. That's kind of how I work with Nomad. It's pretty cool. If you have any more questions, give me a shout. But yeah, that's all my tricks.